Very good afternoon. This is the Midday News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Ashwarya with you. Let us start the Midday News with the headlines. General Manoj Mukund Narwane takes charge as country's 28th Army Chief. Outgoing General Bipin Rawat says confidence his successor will take Indian Army to greater heights. India's first appointed Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat says will plan fresh strategy for his new role. Vice President Naidu says his stewardship will result in greater synergy among the armed forces. Cold wave continues unabated in North India. Delhi shivers at 4.8 degrees Celsius. Fog affects air and rail traffic. Sub-zero temperatures in many places in Jammu and Kashmir, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. After 91 infant deaths within a month, Rajasthan Chief Minister orders probe at Kota Hospital. National Child Rights Panel issues notice to Medical Secretary. And world all set to usher New Year 2020 in style. High security in Delhi to keep an eye on revelers. Fire engines on standby. The top story this afternoon, General Manoj Mukund Narwane today took charge as the new Army Chief, succeeding General Bipin Rawat. General Narwane served as the Vice Chief of the Army before taking charge of the 1.3 million strong Indian Army. In his 37 years of service, General Narwane served in numerous command and staff appointments in peace, field and also highly active counter-insurgency environments in Jammu and Kashmir as well as in the northeast. He also commanded a Rashtriya Rifles battalion in Jammu and Kashmir and an infantry brigade on the eastern front. Before being appointed as the Vice Chief of the Army, General Narwane was heading the Army's Eastern Command that takes care of India's nearly 4,000-kilometer border with China. General Bipin Rawat also congratulated General Narwane and hoped that Indian Army will rise to greater heights under the new Army Chief.
My best wishes to General Manoj Narwane, a very competent and capable officer. We are confident he will, through his competence and professionalism, take this army to even greater heights. My compliments also to Mrs. Narwane, who will be assuming the mantle of President, Army Wives Welfare Association, and will hereinafter be caring for the families of our soldiers, the Veer Naris, Veer Matas, and the families of our veterans. I wish to convey my best wishes to General and Mrs. Narwane for a very successful.
And General Bipin Rawat has been appointed as the country's first Chief of Defence Staff or CDS. He will take over as the first Chief of Defence Staff on 1st of January, that is tomorrow. And earlier in the day, General Rawat received a Guard of Honour in the forecourts of the South Block. He also paid respects to the fallen soldiers at the National War Memorial today. And later interacting with the media, General Rawat said that he would plan his strategy for the new role after assuming the position. General Rawat assumed charge as the Chief of Army Staff on 31st of December 2016 and he retires from the post after a distinguished career.
First of all, good morning and Jai Hind. Today, as I demit the office of the Chief of Army Staff of the Indian Army, I wish to convey my gratitude and compliments to the soldiers, the rank and file of our Indian Army, who have stood steadfast under challenging circumstances and have performed their duty in keeping with the traditions of our armed forces.
CDS will function as a single point advisor to the government on matters related to the military and will focus on better synergy between the Army, the Air Force and the Navy. The Defence Ministry had recently amended the Army, Air Force and Navy rules by bringing in a new clause that allows the CDS to serve up to a maximum age of 65 years. And earlier, in a landmark decision, the Cabinet had last Tuesday approved the creation of the CDS. And Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu today congratulated General Bipin Rawat on being appointed as the first CDS of the country. In a Twitter message, Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu said that it is a proud and historical moment. And he said that I'm sure that his stewardship will result in enhanced cooperation, synergy, and improve the interoperability among the armed forces. And the Indian Army also congratulated General Bipin Rawat on his appointment as the first Chief of Defence Staff of the country. And also congratulating General Bipin Rawat on his appointment as the country's first CDS, Uttarakhand Chief Minister Trivendra Singh Rawat said that it is a matter of pride and honour for Uttarakhand as well. Let's get you all the weather updates. First up, all the news from Delhi NCR. And there has been some respite for Delhiites from the extreme cold. The national capital today recorded a temperature of 4.8 degrees Celsius this morning. However, there have been 34 trains that are running late this morning due to low visibility conditions in the northern railway region. Now this, remember, comes a day after dense fog enveloped the entire national capital on Monday, delaying hundreds of flights and leading to several diversions as well as cancellations. The national capital yesterday experienced a record-breaking cold day as the temperature fell to its lowest in 119 years, making it the coldest December day since 1901. The icy winds added to the hardships of the homeless. The weather department says that the cold and dense fog conditions in Delhi will continue due to the ongoing disturbances. A respite from the cold may come between 31st of December and 2nd of January when light rains are expected. However, hailstorm is also expected on 1st of January as well as on the 2nd. Talking in general about the entire north of the country, well, there seems to be no respite really from the chilly weather conditions as mercury continues to dip across the entire northwestern as well as central parts of the country that are reeling under severe cold wave conditions for almost 2 weeks now. The minimum temperatures have fallen significantly from 26th of December onwards, leading to severe cold wave conditions over Rajasthan, Punjab, Haryana as well as Uttar Pradesh and North Madhya Pradesh as well. On Monday, dense fog was seen in many parts of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, while moderate to dense fog was witnessed in Punjab, Chandigarh, West Rajasthan. Talking about Jammu and Kashmir, the Dal Lake froze with the Srinagar at a minimum of minus 6.5 degrees Celsius. Also, Jammu recorded its coldest night in a decade with 2.4 degrees Celsius. And the Met Department is expecting a fresh spell of rainfall or snowfall over Jammu and Kashmir, Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh over the next 4 days, and scattered rains over Punjab, Haryana, Chandigarh and Delhi due to western disturbance, which has impacted the western Himalayan region. News from Rajasthan now, where the number of infants who have died during treatment at the JK Lone Hospital in Kota continues to rise. As many as 14 infants have died at the medical facility within the last 5 years, taking the toll in the entire month of December to 91. Now, Rajasthan Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot has set up a high-level committee of expert doctors and subject experts really to inquire into the cases of deaths of the newborns, and also this three-member team will have to submit its report within 2 days now. Meanwhile, the National Commission for the Protection of Child Rights during an inspection at the hospital found serious lapses, following which the NCP CR chairperson has issued a show cause notice to the Secretary of the Medical Education Department in Rajasthan, seeking an action taken report from him within 3 working days. On to some other news now. The last date for the mandatory linking of the permanent account number or PAN with Aadhaar has been extended till March 2020. The earlier date for the same was the 31st of December 2019. Now, this is the 8th time that the Central Board of Direct Taxes has extended the deadline for individuals to link their PAN with Aadhaar. The Supreme Court in September last year had declared the centre's flagship Aadhaar scheme as constitutionally valid and held that the biometric ID would remain mandatory for the filing of the income tax returns and allotment of the PAN. And the Central Board of Indirect Taxes and Customs has said that the exporters have been paid over 1,12,000 crore rupees as integrated GST refunds. Over 83,000 exporters have benefited. The board said that this shows the government's efforts to fast-track refunds under the GST, especially to the exporters. As of now, the refunds of only 3,604 crores are now pending with the customs. CBIC said that it is using data analytics to identify risky exporter entities that take import tax credit fraudulently and monetize it by paying IGST and then taking a refund. Such exporters are being subject to KYC as well as a verification process before the grant of the refund. And the RBI on Monday released a draft circular for urban cooperative banks on the limits of the exposure to single and group borrowers. The move comes in the wake of recent frauds at the Punjab and Maharashtra Cooperative Bank, and the circular also lays down lending targets for the priority sector. The RBI circular stipulates that prudential exposure limits for the UCBs for a single borrower and a group of connected borrowers will be 10% and 25% respectively of their Tier 1 capital. At least 50% of their loan portfolio will comprise loans not more than 25 lakh rupees per borrower, and the target for loans and advances to the priority sector will be increased to 75% of the adjusted net bank credit or the credit equivalent amount of off-balance sheet exposure, whichever is higher, by 31st of March 2023. And in midday news, time for a very short break. We'll be right back with more news.
Among the inseparable identity of Delhi, Qutub Minar has stood by the test of times and elements. Struck by lightning a few times, the 240-meter star suffered damages on its top story. Firoz Shah Tughlaq and Sikandar Lodi had commissioned the repair under the rule, but the damage most remembered was the one in the 19th century, when an earthquake had damaged the topmost story in 1803. The responsibility of the repair was given to a British officer, Major Robert Smith, who had placed a pillared cupola on the top of the minaret. After massive criticism, the then Governor General Harding ordered the cupola to be removed. It was reinstalled at the ground level to the east of Qutub Minar. It still remains there, known as Smith's Folly.
Vice President M. Venkaiah Naidu on Monday said that students must be taught to become responsible and socially conscious citizens. Addressing the 27th edition of the National Children's Science Congress in Kerala, he said that the real purpose of science and technology was to improve the lives of people. He stressed on the need to reorient the entire education system to include practical aspects of scientific development. The Vice President also urged the youth to upgrade the skills so that they be in sync with the changing job scenario of the 21st century.
Students must always remember this. This is important to inculcate scientific temper in our young minds, which will go a long way in the technological progress of this country. Scientific temper is very much required. We must understand the advancements in science and technology, and innovation will be of no use if they remain in laboratories. If the innovation is confined to lab, it will not serve any purpose. So, lab to land, that should be the focus. We must come out with new ideas, how to improve agriculture, new methods, how to minimize water usage, how to produce more crop, per drop more crop, reduce, reuse, recycle, and how to preserve and conserve the resources that are available.
And the BJP on Monday organized a traders' meet at the Talkatora Stadium in New Delhi. And at the event, senior union ministers like Piyush Goyal and Hardeep Singh Puri were present. And addressing the meet, Union Minister Piyush Goyal urged the businessmen to support the BJP in forming a government in Delhi to take care of their interests. He targeted AAP government in Delhi over a host of issues.
अलग अलग विषयों के बारे में जब हम आकलन लेते हैं तो ध्यान में आता है कि सरकार चलाने के दो तरीके हैं। एक है प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी का तरीका, जो पहले दिन से सरकार में चुनने जाने के पहले दिन से काम में लग जाती है, सुधार में लग जाती है, बदलाव में लग जाती है। और दूसरा तरीका हमने देखा दिल्ली में केजरीवाल साहब का। वो समझते हैं कि पहले 57 महीने हमको कुछ नहीं करना चाहिए, लोग भूल भाल जाएंगे हमने कुछ काम किया तो। सिर्फ आखिरी के 3 महीने में चुनाव जब नजदीक आता है तब उनके ध्यान में आता है कि चलो अब इश्तिहार देना शुरू करते हैं।
And Union Minister Hardeep Singh Puri also addressed the gathering where he informed that more than 40 lakh people in Delhi were staying in unauthorized colonies. He said that the government has come up with the steps to benefit the people living in unauthorized colonies.
कहाँ है ये अनऑथराइज्ड कॉलोनीज? ये लिस्ट मैंने नहीं बनाई, ये दिल्ली सरकार की वेबसाइट पे 2008 से ये अनऑथराइज्ड कॉलोनीज जो हैं इनकी पूरी लिस्ट है। जब 2017 के बाद 2 साल हो चुके और 2019 में पहुंचे तो मैंने दोबारा पूछा तो उन्होंने लिखित में बोला और दिल्ली हाई कोर्ट में एक एफिडेविट दिया कि हमें 2 साल और चाहिए। आप देखिए इन बातों की, एक सरकार तो दिल्ली में है, कल इन्होंने एक प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस की और कहा कि हम लोग जिन्होंने मलकाना हक दिला दिया है हम लोगों को सच नहीं बता रहे। खुद आप 2021 तक का टाइम मांग रहे थे नक्शे बनाने का, वो नक्शे का काम हमने 3 हफ्ते में पूरा कर दिया। हमने रजिस्ट्रेशन प्रोसेस चालू कर दी और हम कुछ ही हफ्ते में ये प्रोसेस कंप्लीट कर देंगे और लोगों के हाथ में मलकाना हक मिल जाएगा।
And BJP's Delhi unit president Manoj Tiwari said that under the leadership of Modi government, several important steps were taken in the interest of the traders.
हमको जितना बीजेपी को सीलिंग का दर्द हुआ है मेरे व्यापारी भाई बहन, उतना थोड़ा सा दर्द भी उसका अगर आम आदमी पार्टी या कांग्रेस को हो जाता तो 351 सड़कें नोटिफाइड हो जाती। किसी की हिम्मत नहीं होती कि आकर के सड़क पे सीलिंग करे हम लोगों की, लेकिन वो तब भी नहीं हुई, आज भी नहीं हुई। इसलिए मैं आप सबको याद ही दिला सकता हूं, बीजेपी सिर्फ सत्ता के लिए काम नहीं करती, हम लड़ रहे थे और मुझे खुशी है कि व्यापारी समाज भी मेरे साथ खड़ा था, लेकिन मैं नहीं था, मैं भारतीय जनता पार्टी का अध्यक्ष था, इसलिए सीलिंग तोड़ करके मैंने सुप्रीम कोर्ट तक की लड़ाई लड़ी। सर, हम लोगों ने 90% सीलिंग के रास्ते को रोक दिया है और अब हम लोग बहुत जल्दी सीलिंग का डी सीलिंग ड्राइव करने के लिए आगे बढ़ेंगे। उसमें भी आपके साथ हम पूरी तरह से खड़े हैं। हम आपको डी सीलिंग ड्राइव दिखाएंगे सर।
And now let's talk about environment and climate change. With the bushfire season starting earlier than usual in the southern hemisphere, thousands of people have been asked to evacuate due to increasing fire risk in Australia. More than 30,000 people are to be evacuated from various states, including Victoria, New South Wales and South Australia, as they are at a heightened risk from high temperatures and strong winds. The season's bushfires have killed 10 people, destroyed more than 1,000 homes, and scorched more than 3 million hectares of land. The fires have also shrouded Sydney and other large cities in a toxic smoke haze, forcing children to play indoors and causing professional sporting events to also be cancelled. Now, conditions are expected to deteriorate over the next 2 days in New South Wales, where 100 fires are burning. Now, scientists say that climate change is creating a longer and more intense bushfire season. The country is also struggling with a prolonged and devastating drought. On to sports news now. India will take part in the Commonwealth Games to be held in Birmingham in 2022. The Indian Olympic Association has withdrawn its threat to boycott the 2022 Commonwealth Games in Britain due to the exclusion of shooting. It also announced that the country will bid to host either the 2026 or the 2030 edition of the Games. The IOA, which is the apex body of the Olympic Games in our country, will now approach the government to seek the necessary approval to host the Commonwealth Games. Commonwealth Games Federation President Dame Louise Martin has welcomed the confirmation of India's representation at the Birmingham Games. Remember, our country hosted the 2010 edition in the national capital. And finally, as the entire world is getting ready to usher in the new year, elaborate security arrangements have been made for the New Year celebrations in the national capital. The security has been beefed up across the national capital in order to ensure orderly celebrations, and Mumbai police has also made elaborate security arrangements for the New Year celebrations. Special anti-Eve teasing squads are going to be deployed at crowded places across Mumbai city as well as in Delhi today. And in Mumbai, the Central Railway has announced that it will run 4 additional suburban services between CSMT Kalyan and CSMT Parvel stations after midnight tonight for the convenience of New Year revelers. And that is the wrap on this edition of Midday News. Thanks for watching.